Okay, so our presentation is entitled Creating Lithics People. And really what our presentation's about is how at Manchester we're working to engender in our students connaissance, so knowledge about lithics, savoir faire, some ability within the subject, but primarily enthusiasm for the subject, something that we have and we're wanting to pass on to our students. So it's a description of what we're doing at Manchester um, to open up discussion really. Okay. Like most departments, we'll have particular strengths and weaknesses or opportunities and problems. On the opportunities front, we're lucky in that we've got two lithic specialists on our archaeological staff. So Elizabeth Healey is an academic lecturer with a lot of experience. I'm a technician in the department and I'm interested in the making process. So we work together quite closely to try and make sure that we're supporting each other in the way that we teach. The other fantastic resource that we've got is space. So we've got two quite large labs that as a technician I have control of and we have access to in order to develop our teaching. In relation to problems, the main one is for an undergraduate student over 3 years at Manchester, they only receive 7 hours of dedicated teaching focused on lithics, and that's over 3 years. So it's an incredibly small amount, and there's no way that a student can really grasp what's going on within those 7 hours. 2 hours first year, 2 hours second year, 3 hours third year. So it's that is the main problem. How do we get beyond the allotted teaching hours to allow students who may well be interested to get to grips with the subject? So to resolve this particular problem that we have, we've broken it down into 3 areas. So the first one, connaissance, knowledge, subject knowledge. Elizabeth strategically uses the 7 hours over the 3 years to introduce the students to both typological and technological approaches to lithics. In relation to savoir-faire, my role is to provide the students with a voluntary drop-in session within the lab space where they can learn how to make some basic tools. In relation to enthusiasm, the third area that we try and focus on and develop, in the making process, if the student can come in with no prior experience and leave a few hours later with an artifact that they've produced, that's a really powerful strategy for enthusing the students to come back again. And obviously, the making process allows them to develop what Anthony Sinclair has called a constellation of knowledge. And within that constellation of knowledge, they can fit in the academic learning that Elizabeth is providing them with. In relation to connaissance, one of the things that Elizabeth has introduced is, when possible, having experienced flint knappers come in to do a demonstration session. So here we can see Carl Lee, who came in for the day. In the morning, he dedicated it to showing the students how to produce hand axes, scrapers, and in the afternoon, he made some artifacts for our teaching collection. So someone like Carl's really good at giving the students a demonstration that shows them and explains the whole process of tool making production. The result of Carl's work is not just the end product though, it's not just the explanation and the tool. We also have all the debitage, which is a really valuable resource in its own right. And so refitting that debitage is a really good exercise for getting the students to understand the process more haptically or physically, using their hands. So not just using their intellect, but using the hands. So the debitage, the experience of understanding how something's produced, recognizing the finished artifact, all those things together really help students get their head round what the lithic production process is. And these practices are building up to getting the students to produce drawings of artifacts, of lithics, debitage, but also tools. And the drawing process is a distillation really of all the experience and understanding that they're developing, and being able to express it and formalize it in a way that other archaeologists, lithic specialists can understand. So the actual drawing is the, if you like, the academic output, but the processes previously are the way that the student gains the knowledge that they can then express through the drawing process.
So we need some eye protection, glasses or goggles, something to protect your leg. Take them off there. We're using glass because it's similar material to flint, but it's easy to work, and we've got loads of it. That's the key thing. So the first thing we want to do is remove all these horrible bits, so we can create a flatter piece. So the main thing to bear in mind is if you hit it on the top, the flake or the removal will come off the bottom. So if we want to get rid of all this, we need to have that at the bottom.
Okay.
Effectively, what you're doing is you're creating an angle, so that it's essentially a dome-shaped piece of glass. Yeah, so this way. Start to alternate which surface you take it from. The general rule is, if you look at the centre line, when it dips below the centre line, it's got very little support there. So if you have it that way up and hit it, that's likely to come off. That's going that way, and then it fractures. It takes a long time off. Well, now I'd flip it over and start on that side again.
Okay, so that way up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that? We should write that back.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah.
Because it's sticking out and because the centre line's low. I've sort of got a triangular shape in mind. Just using a used that to do most of it, and now I'm switching over to this. So then, when I flip it over, I'm going to use the point of this to apply pressure in. So we're starting to make the shape we want. There, that'd be perfect.
In relation to enthusiasm then, I think the key things that that short film illustrates is we're using the space that we've got. We're using it we're allowing students to come in their own time, but we're providing a forum and a structured process for them to engage in. And they bring in the materials, so the materials are all free. We're not having to pay for those. But the important thing, I believe, is that they go home with something. So they learn that Lithics is a game they can win. It's no longer this complex process that they don't really get. By making something, they get it. And then they've got a context to understand the academic material.
That sort of got me going on experimental archaeology. So I decided to go along for a few sessions. I did a bit of glass napping, which was really cool. Got some nice little arrowheads out of it. And then we moved on to flint napping, and the flint napping was a fantastic experience, mostly because it really helped me to start understanding the process that flints go through to turn into tools. And before that, you know, everyone was throwing words at me and technical terms, and they, you know, they'll explain how you can tell how a thing is napped, and I was in the lessons sort of a bit like, yeah, not understanding it, but being enthusiastic. And then once I actually started napping my own flint, it all just clicked into place, and I could look at a flint and sort of mostly tell you where it was napped from and how the different process was used to get to that end thing as well. So it was a really nice two separate things that I'd chosen to do coming together to give me a wider sort of knowledge of everything, which was a bit of a not a mind blown moment, but at the same time a bit of a mind like, oh my god, this is light bulb. That was what I was looking for.
Right. So the conclusion is similar to where we started. Connaissance, so the knowledge and the knowledge that we're sharing or teaching, along with Savoir, Faire, using the resources we've got, such as the lab, such as ourselves. These provide a forum for us to share our enthusiasm, and the result is that we're enthusing some of our students. So we're using the resources we have available to successfully create new Lithics people. Okay, so as I said right at the beginning, this summary is really designed to open up discussion. We're in the process, it's quite an experimental process in itself. We're very open to feedback. So yeah, if anybody has any feedback, we'd love to hear it. Thanks to the Lithics Festival for accepting our presentation, and also thanks to Daisy Courtauld, who normally takes part in the experimental sessions, but took the time out to make the film that we used in the middle of it. Thanks.